Welcome back. You are with AI Brief, and this is episode 393.
It's great to be here.
So today we're diving into a week where it feels like the industry just split into two completely different realities. On one side, you have the titans at the World Economic Forum in Davos, basically predicting the end of coding and comparing AI chips to nuclear weapons.
It was incredibly intense. The whole conversation has really shifted from, look at this cool new feature, to you have months, not years, to adapt or get left behind.
And then on the complete other side of that, you have a new startup raising almost $500 million.
In a seed round.
In a seed round, yeah, with this whole philosophy of making AI more friendly and collaborative.
Exactly. That's the humans' story. It's this fascinating counter-narrative to the idea that AI is just here for pure automation.
We've got all of that, plus a really interesting launch in audio to video generation, and of course our roundup of new tools you need to know about. But I think we have to start in Switzerland at Davos.
We do, where the takes were much hotter than the weather.
It seems like AI is the main topic at Davos every year now, but this one felt different. It wasn't just a victory lap for the big tech companies. It felt more like, I don't know, a warning.
It was absolutely a warning. The message from the leaders of Google, Microsoft, Anthropic, it was all the same. The disruption is speeding up, and that window for people, and frankly for entire companies to adapt, is closing way faster than I think most people realize.
We heard from the biggest names, right? Dario Amodei from Anthropic, Demis Hassabis from Google, Satya Nadella from Microsoft. Let's start with Amodei, because he made a comment about U.S.-China policy that, it just stopped me in my tracks.
You're talking about the nuclear comparison.
Yeah, he was asked about President Trump's policy allowing certain AI chip sales to China. And usually CEOs are so careful with politics, but he didn't hold back.
No, he really didn't. He said, and I'm quoting here, that it's like selling nuclear weapons to North Korea.
It's such a terrifying analogy, but I want to unpack that because on the surface it sounds like hyperbole. How is a computer chip which just processes data like a nuclear bomb?
Right, but you have to understand the scale he's talking about. He doesn't mean the chip in your laptop. He's talking about frontier compute, these massive clusters of thousands of H100s. With that much power, you're not just training a better chatbot. You're creating a system that could be capable of, say, catastrophic cyber warfare or even designing new biological agents.
So his argument is that the hardware itself is the weaponizable component.
Precisely. The compute power is the proliferation risk. If you give a geopolitical adversary the ability to train a model that can take down a power grid, you've essentially handed them a WMD. It just totally reframes the entire debate around regulation.
It really does. But he didn't stop at geopolitics. He also dropped a bombshell about the job market, specifically for software engineers.
This was the quote that sent a shockwave through the developer community. Amodei said, "We're maybe 6 to 12 months away from AI models being able to do most, maybe all, of what a software engineer does, end to end."
6 to 12 months? That timeline is just, it's so aggressive. But let's be clear here, because we've heard coding is dead before. Is he talking about just writing the syntax or the actual job itself?
He was very specific. He said end to end. That's the key. This isn't just a souped-up copilot that helps you finish a line of code. He's describing an autopilot, a system where you give it a vague requirement and it architects the solution, writes the code, tests it, debugs it, and deploys it.
That's the difference between a helpful tool and an actual replacement. And if that timeline holds up, we're looking at a fundamental change in how software gets made by, early 2026.
It implies the human role shifts from being a writer of code to a manager of AI agents.
Yeah.
And that connects perfectly to what Satya Nadella was saying about the corporate world.
Nadella had a warning for the big established companies, didn't he?
He did. He said, no company can afford to just coast. His exact words were that big companies who don't adapt will get schooled by someone small.
Get schooled by someone small. It's the classic innovator's dilemma. A small, agile team armed with these new AI tools can just move so much faster.
And Demis Hassabis from Google added the last piece of this puzzle, talking about hiring. He said we should probably expect a slowdown in junior hiring this year.
Which is the big fear everyone has, right? If the AI is as good as a junior dev, why hire a human one?
That's the raw economic logic.
Yeah.
But Hassabis did try to put a positive spin on it. He argued that while the job of a junior dev might shrink, the ability to learn skills will skyrocket because AI is going to be the ultimate tutor.
So the traditional career ladder might be broken, but there's a new elevator.
That's a great way to put it. You might not get that first job to learn the ropes, but you can use AI to learn the ropes yourself, probably faster than ever. It just puts a huge amount of pressure on the individual to self-educate.
So the big picture from Davos is chips are now being discussed as weapons, coding is on the verge of automation, and big companies are vulnerable.
It creates this immense sense of urgency.
Which is the perfect transition to our next story. Because if Davos was about the slightly scary side of automation, this next story is a huge bet on collaboration. A startup called Humans, that's humans and, just raised $480 million.
And we have to mention the valuation. This is a seed round that values the company at $4.48 billion.
I honestly had to read that number twice. A $4.5 billion valuation on a seed round for a company without a public product, it's wild.
It is. But then you look at who's behind it and it starts to make a little more sense. The team is founded by ex-researchers from Anthropic, from xAI, from Google.
The pedigree is off the charts.
Absolutely. We're talking about Google's 7th employee, Georges Herrick, a Stanford professor, the folks who literally built Grok. Investors like NVIDIA, Jeff Bezos, Google Ventures, they're betting on the talent.
Okay, but what are they actually building? The name Humans suggests a very different philosophy from what we just heard from Davos.
It's a direct response to that worldview. One of the co-founders, Andy Peng, she actually left Anthropic over this exact issue. She said Anthropic loved to highlight how its models churned for 8, 24, 50 hours by themselves.
Right, the whole AI agent dream. Give it a task and just walk away.
HumansGear is building the opposite. They call it human-centric AI. The idea is to build a system that acts more like an intelligent group chat.
An intelligent group chat for $4 billion? That sounds surprisingly simple.
Well, it's a metaphor for the interaction model. Instead of the AI working in a black box, it's designed to constantly be in the loop, requesting context from humans, storing a shared memory, and coordinating between different team members.
So it's not replacing the worker, it's more like the connective tissue between them.
That's it, exactly. It's a bet that the future isn't full automation, but this high bandwidth collaboration between people and AI. And honestly, we're starting to see this messaging from Microsoft and others too. The industry might be learning that full autonomy is a lot harder and maybe less useful than they thought.
It's a really interesting pivot. Okay, let's move over to the creative space. We talk a lot about text-to-video, but a company called Lightricks just launched something they call LTX audio-to-video.
And this is a really important workflow shift. Normally, AI video starts with the visuals. You type a prompt, you get a scene. LTX lets you start with the audio, a voiceover, a song, sound effects, and it generates the video to match that.
That solves a massive pain point. I mean, I've tried to make AI videos, and getting the cuts and the motion to sync up with a beat or a line of dialogue is a total nightmare. It always feels off.
That synchronization is the whole breakthrough. LTX is calling it the third paradigm of AI video. The model actually analyzes the audio's rhythm, its beat, its cadence, and then it aligns the camera moves, the scene cuts, and even lip movements to that audio.
So if I upload a really fast-paced song, the video it generates will have quicker cuts and more dynamic motion.
Exactly. It understands tempo. This is massive for music videos, for social media content, for anything with dialogue. You're no longer trying to shoehorn audio onto a silent clip. The audio is what's driving the entire creative process.
It feels so much more natural. It's how a human editor would think, cutting to the beat.
It creates a coherence that's really been lacking. It's a great step forward for multimodal AI that actually understands the relationship between different senses.
Okay, let's slow the pace a little bit as we move into our everything else roundup. We've got a lot of other news to cover, and some of these are a bit technical, but really important.
Let's get into it.
First up, there's a new tool called Goose from Block Inc., which is Jack Dorsey's company. They're positioning it as a free, open-source competitor to Claude Code.
This is a big one for any developer trying to manage their costs. Tools like Claude Code are great, but you're looking at a subscription of maybe $20 to $200 a month. Goose is totally free.
There has to be a catch.
The catch is that you have to bring your own API key.
Yeah.
So it connects to OpenAI, DeepSeek, whatever model you want, and you just pay for your usage, which is often way cheaper than a flat monthly fee.
And it runs locally on your machine.
Yes, which is huge. It means you can use it offline, and it's much better for privacy. If you're working on proprietary code, that's a massive advantage.
Next, OpenAI is starting to deploy an age prediction model on ChatGPT.
This is all about safety. It's a model that tries to estimate if a user is under 18 based on their conversation. If it flags someone as a potential minor, it automatically applies stricter content filters.
What happens if it gets it wrong? I'm sure some adults might type in a way that gets them flagged.
If you get a false positive, you can verify your age with an ID or a selfie through a third-party service. But the real context here is what this is setting up for the future.
The so-called adult mode.
Exactly. OpenAI is planning to launch a much less restricted version of their model in Q1 of 2026. To do that, they need a bulletproof way to keep minors out. This age prediction system is the first step toward building that gate.
Speaking of the future, we got a very small update on OpenAI's hardware plans.
Just a tiny one. At Davos, Chris Lethane from OpenAI confirmed that their secret hardware project with Jony Ive is still on track for a reveal in the second half of 2026. Still no clue what it is, though.
And circling back to the coding theme, Ryan Dahl, the creator of Node.js, had some pretty strong thoughts this week.
Yeah, when he talks, developers listen. He basically declared the era of humans writing syntax by hand is over. He said there's still work for engineers, but that work is no longer manually typing out code.
It just echoes what Amade was saying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When the guy who created Node.js tells you to stop writing code, it carries some weight.
It really solidifies that consensus. The valuable skill is shifting from syntax to high-level logic and architecture.
Let's talk about a new model from a company called Liquid AI. They just released LFM 2.5.
LFM stands for Liquid Foundation Model. And what's interesting is that it's a reasoning model that is incredibly small, only 1.2 billion parameters.
Why is the small size so important?
Because it's small enough to run on a smartphone. Usually for high-level reasoning, math, and problem solving, you need a giant model in the cloud. Liquid AI is claiming this tiny model can match those bigger ones while running completely on device.
Which is kind of the holy grail, right? Powerful AI without needing an internet connection. And in other funding news, Basin is raising a big round.
Very big round. $300 million at a $5 billion valuation. Basin is what's called an inference company.
Can you just quickly define inference for us?
Sure. Training is the expensive, time-consuming part of teaching the AI. Inference is the part where you actually use it. You ask a question, it gives you an answer. Basin provides the infrastructure for companies to run these models efficiently.
So they're providing the picks and shovels for the AI gold rush.
Exactly. And the fact that half of that new funding is coming directly from NVIDIA tells you everything you need to know.
Lastly, a quick note on education from Anthropic.
They've partnered with an organization called Teach for All to train 100,000 educators across 63 different countries on how to actually use AI tools in their classrooms.
Which is so critical. If the world is changing this fast, the teachers have to be equipped to prepare the students.
It's an essential piece of the puzzle.
All right, that brings us to our final segment, today's trending AI tools. Let's run through the ones that caught our eye this week.
First is Skills by Vercel. This is an open ecosystem for finding and sharing what are called agentic skills. It's almost like an app store for your AI agent, letting you give it new abilities like browsing the web or saving files.
Then we have LTX audio to video, which we talked about earlier, the tool that lets you generate videos starting from an audio file.
Next is Step 3 VL10B. This is a new state-of-the-art open-source vision language model from StepFun. It's pushing the limits of how well AI can understand and describe images.
We also mentioned LFM 2.5 1.2b thinking. That's the super efficient reasoning model from Liquid AI that can run on your phone.
For anyone in marketing or video creation, there's Cut. It's a tool that aims to turn a simple idea or a few words into a polished video, really lowering that barrier to entry.
Then there's one called Articos. This one's interesting. It takes your landing page or marketing copy and simulates how a target audience might react to it.
It's like having an instant AI-powered focus group. You can test your messaging before you spend $1 launching it.
For designers, there's Bookmarkify. It's a simple utility to help you save, organize, and share visual inspiration you find across the web.
And finally, one that's just fun, Playmix.
Yeah.
This tool claims to generate playable games, along with 2D and 3D art and sprites, just from a text prompt.
Wait, actual playable games?
Very simple ones, yeah. But you can literally prompt a basic game into existence. It just shows how far generative AI is moving beyond just text and images.
It's unbelievable. I mean, from talk of nuclear weapons at Davos to generating a video game with a single sentence, the sheer range of what's happening right now is just staggering.
It is, but that's what we're here for, to try and make sense of it all.
Exactly. So be sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss our next deep dive. And if you got value out of this, please share it with a colleague who's trying to keep up.
See you in the next episode.